I want to ask you a question. Who's coaching you? Who's asking you the tough questions? Who's telling you, man, you're the common denominator to all of your issues and challenges? Who's telling you, man, all day long, you become the magnetic pulse that attracts to you both good and bad? I want to be your life coach. I want to be the one that cheers you on to the finish line. I want to be the one that you ask the tough questions. And it doesn't mean that I have all the answers, but that means that you have a partner, someone who believes in you, not the you see right now, but the you can't imagine, the you that you are to become, the you were destined to be. I always say we both need the positive and the negative. It's not enough to have the knowledge of the matter, but we must have the wisdom as well. For wisdom settles it. And that's what I want to offer you as you join me on the Coach's Corner. I want to offer you the wisdom of the matter. Maybe it might be relationships, talking about our campaigns for more, for life, the dark room of our subconscious, our spiritual journey. Whatever it is, I want to be there to encourage you, to build you, to challenge you, to cheer you on to the finish line. I'm qualified to do this. Why? Because I'm you.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of the Coach's Corner on SIBN Radio right here. And we thank you and pray and thank you. We thank you in advance for all of your help as we continue to move forward. Got some little technical glitches here in the studio, but it is all good. Thank you again for joining us. As we approach the microphone, we realize and accept that we have our own set of issues, but we simply believe that we bring to the microphone the wisdoms of the matter, and we trust that we can earn the right to speak into your life. And we realize that we have our own issues, but we have the wisdoms from the falls that we have taken in life. And I would be remiss if I did not thank all of those of you who are joining us from around the world on the various platforms where we air. Thank you for joining us right there on SoundCloud. If you want to listen on demand, if you also want to listen on demand, thank you on Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio. We're not on there currently, but just a plethora of shows are already on Blog Talk Radio. But the Coach's Corner also is on Stitcher Radio for those that are on the go and really need to know. 24/7 hardcore motivation at www.415-96radio.com and beyond. Thank you so very much. Today we're going to be talking about Caught in a trap, snagged by a snare. Caught in a trap, snagged by a snare. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SelectUSA TV. And for those of you who dare to support us financially, www.we-support-SelectUSA TV is our media club platform where you can support us there. Mr. Coach, let's get to work. Caught in a trap and snagged by a snare. As I was thinking about the show on today, I was thinking about the people that we don't see in the everyday scheme of life. Unless you live on South Side Chicago, East Side Cleveland, the Bronx, over on the west side of Oakland, east side of LA. Now, if you're in those kind of trenches, you are going to be aware of the content that I'm going to disseminate and share today. But there is a plethora of people that plummet even as we speak. Folks that are going down, down, down. And while those who are trying to come up scratch and claw and judge and criticize and bring other people down to what they think is the common denominator, our counterparts, our communities, our regions, even families, even while I'm speaking, plummet. Trapped in a snare, caught in a trap. There are 9 areas where this, in my view, occurs. Number one, the area of pleasure. Pleasure not necessarily because I'm looking to be satisfied, but pleasure because I have been arranging and rearranging and trying to prioritize why do I do what I do, though others may think, and I put up the wall, that I am doing this for the sake of pleasure and even for money for that matter. Of a truth, I cannot seem to stop. Pleasure-driven behaviors. Or you could even switch it up to say money-driven behaviors. I was noticing the documentaries that MSNBC does on human trafficking. I am appalled. I am saddened, dismayed that even as you and I go about our day, someone is falling right now. And they were talking about the young ladies that start off at 12 and 13 and 14 being owned by a pimp, sent to the street corners to solicit sex for money. This is one of the areas where we're caught in a trap, snagged by a snare. And you see it as the time evolves in these documentaries. They show women in their 40s, I dare say mid to upper 40s, who've grown to be too old to work the streets for pimps, but they throw themselves at the mercy of anyone who will give them at least $20 for a hit of crack or heroin. Starting off, though, to be pleasure-driven, perhaps, and starting off to be something for fun. I just want to get my kicks. Starting off to be trying to survive a rape or trying to survive some kind of sexual abuse. Starting off seemingly innocent, seemingly I can figure this out, but escalating into a trap and a snare that I can't really talk too much about, says the young lady or the young man. And now I find myself caught in a snare. Caught in a snare. And then this pleasure-driven or money-driven mentality and set of behaviors lead to 8 other areas. Venereal diseases. How many people out there listening to the sound of my voice know someone who is suffering from the behaviors, perhaps, of a sexual-driven, greed-driven mentality, now suffering with AIDS or herpes or some other venereal disease? Caught in a snare, snagged in a trap. Then we have the emotional dysfunction. The emotional dysfunction is I could do a series of shows on the emotional dysfunction, because some of us who think we got it all together still suffering from emotional dysfunction. While we layer ourselves with Christian principles, we still can't seem to function in the fellowship of a family. And the best of us sometimes act like the worst of us because we thought we had it all together. Emotional dysfunction. Then domestic violence. How many, if you take any one of these areas that I'm going to mention, but I'm just going through them very lightly now, how many people right now are being beaten, stomped, spit upon, shot, stabbed, all because of some kind of dysfunction, either psychosocially, emotionally. And while we claw and clamor to get to the top, we are yet unaware of those who are caught in a trap and snagged by a snare. I would think, after watching those documentaries, to go back to that for a second, that the church, the body of Christ, would be in an outcry right now. I'm talking about citywide, community-wide, statewide, region-wide, national-wide. But there is no outcry. There is no march for the women who can't get off heroin. There don't seem to be a collaborative effort and a march and a big collaborative prayer meeting and an outcry for those who are being beat, stabbed, shot, starved, thrown out of their homes, thrusted into the legal system of which they have no clue on how to proceed. Then we have the other snare of poverty. It is said that the jobs that people can get now are really not the jobs that help them get up, just a job that helps them keeps going, and that barely. It's not a job that will help you do better, just a job that helps you do, if you do at all. Poverty. Someone had labeled President Obama as the food stamp president. It's ironic to me because when you think of food stamps, you think of black folks. For black folks who have heard about EBT and food stamps, they always think of themselves. But statistics show us that more Caucasians use food stamps than African Americans. But that's not in the news as much, so therefore we equate black with EBT. We equate somehow or another the unfairness in the food stamp program with metro areas. And it's quite the contrary. Poverty. The inability to rise economically, the inability to rise from a snare of I don't have enough. I don't have enough food. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough strategy. I don't have enough of whatever. And maybe even what I have doesn't even last the end of the month. So at the end of the month, I have to turn tricks. I have to do all kinds of things to make up the difference for what I don't have. Therefore, now I have found myself to be caught in a snare and snagged in a trap. Or caught in a trap and snagged in a snare. However you want to put it, poverty is one of those snares. Then we have family dysfunction, of which maybe perhaps many things can flow from. And when I come back from the break, I want to talk about why you and I are having a great day. Bottoms up, as somebody said in the club. I'm on my way to church, another said. Someone is severely at risk of losing a future, all because grown folks can't get it together. We'll come back from the break, talk about family dysfunction. This is Coach Mal. DCC, trapped in the snare. We'll be right back.
For hardcore motivation and daily inspiration. Tune in. That's www.415-96radio. That's www.415-96radio.com. You're listening to the sounds of the Coach's Heart.
I'm not secure enough to take criticism from anyone else because I have an ingrown toenail in my mind. And the ingrown toenail dictates to me that I must put you in your place when you open up your mouth to begin to size me up, because the truth of the matter is, I have not sized myself up. I have not been truthful with me. And that's why I'm not free enough to sit here and listen to a criticism that may or may not apply. I must cut you off and give you a piece of my mind. And the reason why I do that is because I will never give you the power that I myself have not recognized I have. And my friend, my sister, my brother, that is the wrong way to look at life. You should be secure enough that no matter who does what and where, you can sit there or you can simply walk away without even saying a word. And you know that you've done the work in your private space. Keep pace with the race. Join me on the Coach's Corner at www.415-96radio.com for more hardcore motivation, daily inspiration, and antidotes for your spiritual foundation, because every now and then there's a leak in this old building. And as the songwriter said, my soul has got to move. Join me there at www.415-96radio.com.
You're listening to the sounds of the Coach's Corner.
Yeah, we're back here, man, talking about Caught in the Trap, Snagged by a Snare. Family dysfunction is one of those snares. Family dysfunction. It's amazing. As we claw and clamor our way through the week, looking to upgrade ourselves, a select few of us, someone right now is at grave risk of losing their future. All because grown folks can't function. All because it's my way or the highway, or all because dad left, or all because somehow or another mom doesn't have the time to do X, Y, and Z because she's busy trying to make sure that the basic needs are met. Could be any number of scenarios. Absolutely, unbelievably sad that with all the resources that we have in this world, particularly in the United States of America, the Americas, we are at risk every single moment of the day of family dysfunction. We have no sense of family as a corporate people in the Western Hemisphere. Another snare is destructive behavior patterns. I was watching the NBC documentaries on human trafficking, and I ran across something that might be a great tip for those who are working with their daughters and can't understand why their daughters are so angry. And one of the reasons why this one particular young lady that I was watching in the documentary was angry is because she was raped repeatedly before the age of 10, and the first of rapes occurred in a church, of which she never told anyone until she was grown, and by this time caught in a snare herself. Could it be that the destructive behavior of some teens is because of some hidden shame that they're trying to deal with, and some unforeseen guilt that they have been coping with? Does everything have to be approached from the front door when we really don't understand the dynamics of teen development and the evolution of the fact that they're already psychosocially, chemically even in the storm, but then they're thrust into a horrific situation with secret lies and unforeseen behaviors that cause them now to seem destructive just out of the blue. Caught in the trap and snagged by a snare. You know, that's what we're talking about today. We can move about the cabin and act like there's nothing else going on in the world, but in all actuality and reality, that while you may be trying to improve yourself, or while I may be trying to improve myself, I don't see how that we are collectively trying to improve our regions, our communities, our families. I see a lot of folks giving a lot of advice, but I don't see unity. I don't see masses amount of people just going absolutely berserk about the ills of our society, to the degree that it is literally destroying a minority and causing a greater divide between the haves and have-nots. And these same situations and snares and traps are found no matter what color you are, no matter what size you are, no matter what economic status that you have, or social status, if you will. But we don't seem to be concerned about it. And it leads me to the last, this vocational dysfunction. How is it that you can serve in the armed forces of the United States of America and come home and have to worry about a job? Somebody help me with that right there. How is it that you can fight on the battlefront for a country that is free to remain free, but yet you're not free enough to come home and get your medical benefits without having to stand in some long line, having to go through some barrage of paperwork? This is an outrage at best. This is a catastrophe. How is it that we expect those men and women to come home from the armed forces, the various branches, having served in war, and yet do not provide for them psychosocial and religious services that will allow them to discharge, even just having perhaps picked up all kinds of innuendo feelings and psychological conditionings from being in war? How are we not even as a country prepared? Why is it we have to collect donations? I need some help to help military families do anything when they should be really the cream of the crop. If you served in a tour and you served representing the United States of America, you ought not to have to worry about no benefits. You ought not to have to worry about no house. You ought not to have to worry about no job. We ought to have some kind of bill, some legislation that allows companies to get tax benefits if they're hiring veterans. And maybe that's on the books. If it is, you can let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at SelectUSATV. But what I'm saying to you, these folks, these military families, these folks that are coming home, that made it back to the Americas, are caught in a trap and snagged by a snare when they can't even get decent care. So there you have it. As we expose the patterns and share the stories and hopefully break the cycles, you have 9 areas where we have been trapped and snagged. Pleasure, money-driven behaviors, venereal diseases of all sorts. Don't you hate it when you come in contact with somebody you think you're attracted to, and you've been celibate and you've kept your way, and as I've heard in the story, and then this young lady not automatically, but this young lady finally gave in to this young man after being celibate for all these years. She gave in sexually to this young man, only to find out months later he gave her AIDS. How many people are running around having sex with other folks without disclosing their medical condition of having a venereal disease? Then we talked about emotional dysfunction. I mean, we didn't talk about it, we just mentioned it. Emotional dysfunction. Folks are layered up with all kind of cliches and books that they've read and principles that they stand by. But in the back, in the booth, in the dark, they still wrestle themselves with emotional dysfunction, having been left by a father, or having been betrayed by a mother, having been, dogged by a brother or uncle or sister. Then we talked about domestic violence. Someone, somewhere, somehow, somebody right now is being harmed while you and I are getting a coffee break. While you take your smoke break at your job, while you laugh about how the game was good, somebody could be dying or at risk of dying. Then we talked about poverty. These are the snares and the traps. But the one that we didn't talk about after we talked about family dysfunction and behavior, destructive behavior patterns and vocational dysfunction, we didn't talk about spiritual death. There is a lack, and I don't have the time, but we got to mention it because it's the 9th trap. It's the 9th snare. We don't have the spiritual consciousness that we used to have at home. We don't have the spiritual consciousness. We don't have the spiritual appetites anymore to rely on sources beyond ourselves. We don't seem to have any kind of connection but with anything that we can't taste, touch, smell, hear, and feel. If I don't feel it, then I just won't do it. Spiritual death. Oh, the communities and regions and states reek with the smell of those who parade their flesh around in an attempt to solve their own problems. But they reek and they have a stench of death upon them because circumstances kill. This is why we turn to God. This is why we turn to the Bible. This is why we really truly go to the fellowship of the brethren and sisters, because we really are trying to find more ways to live life as being alive and not live life as dead corpse walking around parading the beauty of nothing. Caught in a trap, snagged by a snare. And while you're going about your day with a happy amen, perhaps just trying to figure out how to pay a credit card bill, while you are struggling with the aspirations of your career, while you are mesmerized by why your child did not want to do X, Y, and Z, someone somewhere at all times is at grave risk of losing a future. And make no mistake about it, everyone that we acknowledge or don't acknowledge who loses their future puts our future at risk. I felt that right there. Something pushed me right there. Because you might say, that's not my family. I'm not from there. That don't have nothing to do with me. Precisely my point. We are all connected. We are all connected. Yeah, I like that, DJ. We are all connected. We are all connected. We are our brother's keeper. And so thereby, this awakening, this dissemination of the traps and the snares should make us more compassionate, should make us more apathetic, should make us more conscious, should make us more humble, it should make us more thankful, more grateful. It should make us admit, I got some issues too. But let me help someone else. Let me come clean. Let me put down my agenda and let me find an avenue. Let me find a way to make sure that my neighbor, my brother, my sister is okay. Let me condescend from my white horse and find some way, some method, some avenue, some steps to be one that reconciles others. And let me not deny that these multiplicity of traps and snares exist all around me. They are close to me as shoulder to shoulder in a huddle of a football game. What is it that I can do differently? What is it that I can do to make a contribution to the old? First, I can be honest. I can be honest about the fact that I'm not all that in a bag of chips, because you know what? I barely make it myself. while I got my degrees and I got my paid for vehicles and my house is paid for and I got my retirement and I've got my friends and my networks and I got trophies and I got this and I got that, investment portfolios, and I got, titles behind my name, I realize I'm living in a world that's broken. And I realize and accept that I must make a contribution. And will that contribution add to the problem, or will it provide a solution? That question is up to us. And I hope, I pray that we can help somebody who is caught in a trap and snagged by a snare. Until next time, find a way to take care of yourself. Rely on a source beyond yourself. Follow me on Twitter at SaletUSA TV. It's the Coach.